So he's kind of like coddled a little bit by his grandma, and he's taught to have really nice manners. Like he mentioned several times in the books that he's not considered a sassy child. So I think it
heaven
sounds like
forbid he be a sassy child.
he was not. He was very well behaved. He remembers the first time he goes out to like go shopping without supervision, and there's a kid named One-Eyed Bud who throws mud at his nice white suit. And he runs into these sort of street toughs, and he said, "I said hello to them very pleasantly."
That guy, One-Eyed Bud with the mud, has too many nicknames.
He has an early experience with music. He hears Buddy Bolden play at the Funky Butt Hall.
It's like you think that you would make up things that are like jokes of this era, but then they're just the things.
Those are exactly. They are
Funky
just
Butt Hall?
the things. Yep. I knew about Buddy Bolden. I'd heard about Buddy Bolden. He was basically a very talented hornman who kind of went crazy.
Oh yeah.
From like alcoholic psychosis, more or less. And so he went from being a very, very early
Buddy
figure
Bolden,
of jazz.
the mad hornman of New Orleans.
Yes. He like shaped what ragtime into jazz, but he was like buried in an unmarked grave.
Wow.
So he's like, and Louis Armstrong saw him when he was a kid.
Wow.
His opinion of Buddy Bolden, he said, "I think he blew too hard."
Too much passion.
And Louis would know.
A little too much toot in the horn.
Louis says that when he's a kid, the king of all musicians was Joe Oliver, the finest trumpeter who ever played in New Orleans. So Joe Oliver becomes this sort of like mentor throughout his early life.
His horn father.
Yeah, his horn daddy.
Yes.
He music is basically everywhere because like live music is everywhere. He even like funerals in New Orleans, like people. He says
I've heard that they do this in New Orleans.
Yeah.
What with the bands at the funerals.
And second lining, which is like when you walk behind the bands and just kind of like.
Could you imagine if that was like a thing in like white people culture but it would be like going to a funeral in the suburbs and like four guys with greasy hair playing like a Counting Crows song, trailing behind the funeral.
Just like a really long dirge-like cover of Mr. Jones.
Yeah. Mr. Jones and me.
I feel like the closest thing you could do is like have a sort of like metal Viking funeral where you played like Pantera or something.
Yeah. Where you get the metal band, you put them on the raft with the body, you kick them out so they float out into the lake and set it all on fire and they all sink in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have one big barge with the body, and then you have like 4 to 5 individual kayaks.
Yeah, with all the people.
With everyone in it, and then they, at the appropriate moment, unmoor themselves. That sounds
There is something like mournful and lilting to even the upbeat styles of New Orleans jazz that does make it seem funeral appropriate in a tonal way.
Yeah. Remember Marilyn Manson has a like affinity for New Orleans, and he basically said
I would love somebody to just be blasting beautiful people as they lower my casket into the grave.
You die a pretty corpse or whatever that is. Die a beautiful people. Marilyn Manson has like a weird thing about New Orleans where he's just like it made him like nuts. I think I remember him saying it was just like the air was haunted and electric.
Yeah,
and so there's something in there about music and
all
death.
that haunted air.
Yeah,
you get ghost asthma.
Smoke. Yes, you probably got ghost asthma from smoking someone's bones.
Yes.
Yeah. Louis does not. He does not do that. It's not what he's into. So he develops his early ear for music for stuff like funeral parades and fun parades also. They don't always have to just be for funerals. The way he actually learns how to play the trumpet, do you know anything about this?
I feel like this is a story that I had been told once before, but I have since forgot. But maybe as soon as you start talking, I'll remember it. It's traditional and common for the time between Christmas and New Year's for people in his neighborhood to fire guns in the air in celebration. At any time?
Yeah, just like, out and about partying, fire a gun into the air.
Yeah, I had
no
an
harm,
uncle
no
once
foul.
who told me that his dream was to own a bar with, quote, a place out back to shoot. Not a shooting range, not a target range or anything, just a wide open space where you can kind of shoot.
Yeah. Just
so this
shoot.
sounds like that.
Yeah, kind of like that. Just the busy streets of New Orleans. Louis gets his hands on a pistol, a .38 pistol. He fires it in the air on New Year's Eve, and he gets sent to child jail. This is called the Waif's Home. The Waif's Home.
Which also sounds like a Decemberist song.
Surely it does. He gets sent there for an indefinite period of time.
Oh my God.
The judge sentences him to
whatever.
I don't know, until you feel like you've fixed yourself.
Until you've really thought about it.
He's
child jail. The Waif's Home.
Yeah.
Side B of The Rake's Demise.
He was 11 or 12. So he goes to the Waif's Home. A lot of other kids there. He is there for 6 months before he gets the opportunity to play with the Waif's Home brass band.
Okay.
Because if you have a child jail,
you also need a brass band.
Well,
what are you going to have those kids doing all day?
Exactly. Just sitting around. The brass band plays like picnics and parades. It's kind of like, I think we just talked about how inmates in California are fighting fires for cents on the dollar. I was
just thinking about this.
This is kind of like they'll get hired out.
The child inmates, we've come a long way from child inmates being party-ready brass bands to child inmates being forced to fight fires.
Jesus
in California.
Christ. He says that they had a blast. Like they loved it. He said one time they paraded for 25 miles to get to where they needed to ultimately go.
Were they playing the entire time?
I think they were playing most of the time.
Think of how sad that band would sound after.
They might have sounded awesome. He also gets to be the official bugler for the Waif's Home. He said, "I would stand very erect as I would put the bugle nonchalantly to my lips and blow real mellow tones." So he's honing his craft.
He sounds like a champ.
He was at the home for 3 years.
For shooting a gun once?
For shooting a gun once in the air.
Great. Excellent. Amazing system. Love it.
So, I mean, it's insane.
I mean, at least he got a lot of time to bugle.
As much time as
Look,
he
I'm
wanted.
not saying this to justify it, but it paid off.
So there's a weird thing in this book, and it's things that normal people might consider suffering. He's like, it was great. I loved it. I love my time with the
I'm wondering how much that would be about like the time it was written and the kind of figure that he would be in pop culture, that he would feel compelled to like spin kind of suffering and oppression as no, these are good things that made me better in the way I am, and I'm great. I am humbly a great man.
Right.
Because I like had these things that should be like oppressive injustices, but were really opportunities to learn to bugle.
Right, exactly. Spinning it as a redemption narrative almost.
Yeah, or like a kind of like a Ragged Dick style, rags to riches type, like American good old fashioned.
Right. It only made me stronger.
Just like how all Americans get thrown in indefinite detention for 3 years and come out world class musicians.
Yeah, it's the American dream. Really,
it is the American dream.
Yeah. I just want to sidebar that. Well, he finally gets out of child jail, and he gets a job playing the horn. Not a full-time job, part-time job playing horn at a honky tonk, working for a man named Henry Ponce. He also
all these names are great.
Yeah, Henry's like a Frenchman, Louisiana man.
Yeah, we're kind of in the mode where I know they're all Louisianan, but I'm kind of getting like a Louisiana Dickens vibe.
Yes, this whole story is very Dickensian. It's very like, picaresque in each incident. I got out of that by the seat of my pants and on to the next.
He's like a little hapless, but like, yeah.
It's beautifully written though. I enjoyed reading it.